Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. This is Auto Hoaxer GTFO by Chief Crow. If you want to share this, go ahead. It's late, so I didn't send out notifications because this is two streams back to back. Don't want to totally bomb people's addresses, but this one's going to be short anyway, and I'll be rebroadcasting it in the morning. So, what we're going to go into now is evidence of sabotage, which we predicted would be evident after this last conference. So let me go ahead and see who's here. All right, great. We've got about 13 domestic terrorists, enough for a coven. All right, 33. Lodge is open. How many bowl cuts does it take to constitute a terrorist cell? All right, let's get started. Joined by MVP, Mo, Salty Siren, Dreammaker Bear, Lean Dion, and innumerable unnamed lurkers. Oh, there's Tim Truth. Yeah, I wasn't surprised when I saw World War III being called out. And I have a few, I won't say premonitions, but guesses based on the predictive scripting that we analyzed right before the 11/3. I don't know if you want to call it a debacle, but the day that they burned the Space Needle in Turkey. We're talking about this World War III being a space war taking place in cyberspace involving China, Iran, Russia against America, and ultimately about who decides what the space age is going to look like, communist or free. I mean, I think that's kind of where we are at this moment. I mean, it's all obviously a ruse by the oligarchs to corral you, the masses. You're all kneeling, before the cult of the obelisk, so long as you adhere to this whole paradigm where they're going to have simulated events way up out of sight, out of mind, and you're just going to take their word for it. And what happens if they simulate the takedown of the space station? You know how triggering that will be for people? And if you didn't know, the Challenger explosion wasn't exactly live. So if you saw it in class and they didn't tell you you were going to watch the simulated murder of 7 astronauts, well, then they kind of owe you an apology because it wasn't live. If they showed it to you, it would have been on a rebroadcast and they would have known that it was an immolation. Anyway, let's get on topic here. So, what we've been covering for the last year has just been the evolution of the flat earther in the mind of the mainstream media and how the merging of certain ideas with this concept that have nothing to do with it. It has been our contention, have been planted there to prevent anyone from going to the edge or beyond, or really asking any meaningful questions that will move this thing into the point of getting an answer. And so we've been very critical of the conference earthers. And when I saw that a certain comedian was on the bill, I thought, well, that's interesting. It's an election year, meaning all the political identity groups have their funding, and they use that funding to get offended. Like, I'm not offended by anybody's comedy. What I am offended by are people who flag people's content because it offends them. I'm offended at people that get offended. That offends me. So, when I saw the bear cult merging, I didn't think too much of it other than it's just a continuation of let's just throw in a whole bunch of Jew hate and fundamentalist Christianity and homophobia, transphobia into the mix, just to make it that much less palatable to the masses. That was our prediction. And of course, this also ties into the censorship, the purging, and you all know what I'm talking about. We've observed it. Since Brenton Tarrant, which it's worth noting, Tarrant County is where the last Christchurch shooting happened, another staged event. But Tarrant from the New Zealand staged event live streamed it. And again, the live streaming was part of this recent event. These things have all been used to take down not your gun rights, but your free speech. And they've succeeded, really probably beyond their expectations, certainly beyond mine. So we've been watching this unfold, and so I'm like, well, look who they put in front of this. What is this going to do? Are they going to, in some way, sabotage any sort of attempt to consolidate public opinion behind getting a certain question answered? Or are they going to muddy it up with identity politics? And of course, I went through it, we watched it, we all saw the statements, and I'm not a church lady here, but I'm just pointing it out from the perspective of the media. And I believe I was vindicated here because, as you can see, the media and the reaction from the outsiders to um, what they saw here at this undercover video at the conference. Well, the media has everything they need now to pretty much pigeonhole flat earthers as some type of Westboro Baptist Church fanatical cult. So I'm going to go through this little by little. This is from, well, I got this on Reddit, and this guy's kind of a clown. I don't want to play all of his intro or any of that, but basically he goes around, kind of clowns everybody. It's what you would expect, but it takes a turn, kind of a dark turn towards the end. So I'm going to play about 30 seconds, and then we'll go towards the end.
I think he's an agent. I think he's a controlled operative, basically a black magician that's been compromised working for the sorcery elite. He's selling solipsism, he's selling snake oil, he's selling deception, he's selling moral relativism. He's a demon, charlatan, manipulator, deceiver, and somebody to, keep a distance from.
So he's doing the lying.
Absolutely.
So he's walking through the conference, speaking with different individuals, and I've never seen this guy here. That previous guy, he's actually an artist, as you can tell. I think you've seen his art. He's at all the events. Now this person here, I've never seen this guy before. I don't know if any of you recognize him, but this is, to me, I think, an actor probably hired to make you all look crazy, to make everyone who talks about this look crazy. Listen to this.
Flat, like top of the hat. Gotta keep it flat.
What's on? Flat gang.
Flat, all the way.
It's flat gang, baby.
Flat gang? Yeah, flat gang, all the way. That's flat.
All right, I'm just saying, this doesn't really seem representative of anybody that I know who've been asking similar questions. Let me go through comments really quick, see if I've missed anything. Okay, I'm going to give you all a link to this thread on Reddit. I'm banned on Reddit, by the way, for life, because one of their editors kind of got sued. Okay, let's continue.
Adolf Hitler. They have
Okay, so you thought him... Okay, so you thought this guy just totally losing his mind was bad enough. But now he starts ranting about how Adolf Hitler basically is who we need to follow. It gets pretty bad. And again, I thought Dan the Waterman was a bad face for Flat Earth. This guy, I don't know. This guy makes me want to apologize to Dan the Waterman.
reincarnated him. He has been cloned. The little short guy with the funny mustache about yay tall. He realized that the flat earth model was correct and went to seize the gate of the south in what we call Antarctica, a place called New Berlin, Antarctica. I believe that Hitler sequestered himself and his greatest scientific teams to New Berlin, Antarctica in the 1940s, in the early 1940s, where he built a manufacturing city.
Right, so Hitler discovered the flat earth theory and the Nazis built a city in Antarctica under...
So I don't know where all this Hitler stuff came from. I kind of do. Then they get
Nice.
And they've been hiding the flat earth reality.
Then they get into a number of rappers. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on those. But okay, now this guy here has to be an actor. Does anybody recognize him? If you recognize this guy in the chat, let me know. I see a lot of face palms. Because I believe this guy's an actor hired to make everyone look crazy. I don't think that he's actually someone who we've ever seen associated with this before.
Hi, dude. There's cures for cancer. There's a cure for AIDS. I just became vegan this last year, bro. I'm like, Pepsi had aborted babies, like the little fecal cells inside of their flavoring.
Is there anything that you don't think was an inside job?
That's a tough one. You know, the Jews are in fucking. Yeah, they freaking control all of everything. I mean, if you 9/11. Back to that. You know what? I used to lie to people a lot about.
Again, the Jews, 9/11, the Jews. But he's kind of smirking as he does it. Like, I think this guy's an actor.
Because they think that you can't talk about a subject unless you have someone like, oh, my dad was there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, once you like open the box, you can't like close it. It's just you. Sometimes I want to go back to Britney Spears concerts and like, shit, just.
Sometimes he wants to go back to Britney Spears concerts. You see what I mean? I think we're looking at actors. I don't know. I mean, this guy's certainly a character. This is a made for internet undercover expose on the conference or something. Does anyone here recognize him? Leon Dion says, why does a Nazi always get mixed in? Exactly. What's with the Nazi stuff getting mixed in?
Just like turn it off where you can just like whatever, but you can still enjoy life, basically use another search engine besides the GOO one. There's Jews controlling these companies.
So now he's going on to how Jews control Google. Don't use Google. But it gets worse. So it mixes in with real flat earthers who aren't actors, just rappers, which I'm not going to knock anybody's rapping.
That the earth's a globe, but then his nose done grown till it hit the dome.
Neil deGrasse can't debate these facts if he wanted to. Earth is flat and stationary, bro. That means it doesn't move. When confronted with the proof, liars get uncomfortable.
Okay, so let's move on a little bit past the rapping. Okay, he talks to Nathan Thompson here, and now here's where the bear stuff comes in. So if you didn't know, everyone here is saying they don't recognize the guy. Exactly. We're looking at agents. So here's Nathan Thompson, who's very suspect to me because I saw a video of him kicking some woman's door down while she's clutching her toddler and screaming. I mean, pretty bad stuff. And one of his exes who refused to drink his blood. I mean, if you want to go into the drama, I really don't. But basically, she refused to engage in vampirism with him. And he was living at the house of George Herbert Walker Bush. Well, the house where the caretaker lived and took care of the guy. So he's living in a home owned by the Bushes, engaged in weird blood drinking, and on video, if you watch Troll vs. Trolls, you've seen this guy psychotically abuse people, including women and children. So Nathan Thompson is just a bad actor, a bad apple, and considering what he is, as in he's the guy with the biggest Facebook Flat Earth channel, and he talks about 120,000 followers. I don't know if it's that many people. I'm suspecting it's fake. But I look at other people who are founding members of this or that on the Flat Earth topic on Facebook, and it's like, well, Philip Stallings founded the Biblical Flat Earth Society. Kind of looks the same. Part of the same part of the country. Not guilt by association, but I'm just saying there's something fishy about this whole clique here. And what you're going to see him do is really interesting. He talks about the Grabblers, and he makes a hand gesture, which he picked up from a certain comedian.
We've had ex-NASA employees, snipers, pilots, telecommunications, air travel controllers, microwave engineers. They all say it's flat.
Who's doing the lying?
Okay, here we go. Who's doing the lying? He rattles off a list, but then watch what he does with his hands.
Masonry involved, some Jesuits involved, and some Gravelers,
The Grabblers. What Owen Benjamin does is he wrings his hands together and he has this mask on, which is a caricature of a Jew, and he does the Grabbler dance, and they're all into it.
Involved, and some Gravelers, most Jewish people are just mom and pops, deli owners. What I use is the word Zionist. So these are
Most Jews are just deli owners, but the word I use is Zionists. It's so, I mean, like, I can't tell if he is any less of an actor than the other characters. Anybody else here think this guy's just an actor? Ooh, nice. Nice. We got a Black Wrench member who got accepted to the Biblical Flat Earth Society Facebook, what you need to do, if you don't mind, is you need to go into the society group and find out who all the moderators are, find out who all the members are, and post it, please. If you can post it in our Discord or post it here, or give, if you can, hand over access. I mean, you need to basically share the information. There's more than 1,000 people in there, and I've been dying to know who's a moderator because nobody will let me in. So good job getting in. How did you get in anyway? Because it was run by a known creep and offender. So I figured, well, if you use a female sock, you'll probably get in. But don't spill your secrets here. Okay, so here's Nathan Thompson misrepresenting all of you. He just wants to shove a Bible in everyone's face while ripping on Jews. And you know what? He doesn't even want to talk about Antarctica because he's controlled opposition. I had to meet him in person a couple of times to understand this about the guy. And after I saw the video where he attacked that woman and her kid, I realized, okay, he's another psychopath, probably being handled by the feds. But listen to this nonsense.
Involved, and some gravelers, you know. Most Jewish people are just mom and pops, deli owners. What I use is the word Zionist. So these are people that are hell-bent on world domination, and most Gentiles are not very conspiratorial minded, so they don't think that the earth could be flat. We can't wage war with the beast, but we can win souls for Jesus.
It's all mind control. You gotta kill.
Now, does anybody recognize this guy? This guy looks like an actor. And his rhetoric is almost too, I don't know, too scripted. Like nobody actually talks like this guy talks. Does anybody in the chat recognize the guy with the orange vest and the mullet? Well, Post Globe Syndicate, that group we're talking about is pretty much moribund. Like I didn't think anybody's even using it. But the point is, I'm very interested to see who's. I have a few ideas, but I'd like to have a few screen caps. I'm surprised that it hasn't been shut down. 1,200 people in it. Interesting. Now look at this guy here, though. I don't recognize him. Now listen to this.
And you got a Fallon, and I think both of those are Jewish-backed names. What we're standing on here is not what they told us it is. The whole thing can be solved very easily. How do you stand on Hitler? Do you believe
the whole thing can be solved easily? How do you stand on Hitler? So basically he was saying Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon are Jews. Now he's telling us, so really this seems like a hit piece disguised as a comedy piece. And these individuals, as far as I know, didn't exist before this. Like this almost makes me believe in the Mandela effect.
If you research Hitler at all, Hitler was demonized by these Rothschild banker cartels.
So what are you out here today to talk about?
Now this guy seems nice enough, but again, I suspect an actor. I really do. Now this one is the trippiest one. This guy at the end, you got to watch this one carefully. Okay, so check this one out. This guy here, this next guy, I think they hired an actor. I don't know. This guy seems phony as well.
Carl. The question is this a photo or a painting?
What's the answer, man?
Well, I'm asking you. Get you thinking, right? So, like, what do you...
Like, this almost seems like parody. Does anyone else get the impression that this person is engaging in parody? He's got his head covered up and glasses. I don't recognize him. Does anyone here recognize him?
Is this a photo or a painting?
What's the answer, man?
Well, I'm asking you. Get you thinking, right? So, like, what are you really seeing? Is it an image? Because images can be photoshopped, right? That's what really gets you going, and then you kind of go from there, man.
Okay, so that's the last part of it. I'm going to go ahead and give you a link to it. This is... Yeah, someone said, is that a knockoff Jaren? Yeah, they forgot the brows, but pretty much parody, right? Okay, so let's go down. Now, Pepsi had aborted babies. I've heard that. I've heard that there's aborted babies in McDonald's food. I mean, people say the craziest stuff, and they still eat it. Like, if they believe it, why do they... Like, look, if you believe that there's aborted fetuses in Pepsi and in your Big Macs, don't eat there. And if you believe that your airplanes are spraying chemicals into the skies, don't fly. So many hypocrites. At least Greta doesn't fly. I can forgive her for those single-use wrappers on the floor of her Tesla. That's fine. Alright, so let's continue. We were looking at this pretty much a hit piece, right? So here are some reactions from people who are seeing this for the first time. Now the channel is called All Gas No Brakes. They say, so flat earthers are way more into Jewish conspiracies and cheerleading Hitler than I knew. Says, I didn't know there was so much anti-Semitism in the flat earth community, says Honeycat. Man, this is fascinating. Says, yeah, those fun people who think Jews created the myth of the globe, or that Hitler had been sidelined by the bankers. And there's a whole side thread here. But my point is, when people see what we were just shown here, which is a highly selective collection of people, they get an impression. And I think that this is deliberate and that this was intended to possibly even justify a lot of the censorship that we've seen so far this year, so nobody really complains about it. Let's see what the commenters on the guy's channel actually say. He's got 15,000 subscribers, and the piece is called Flat Earth Conference. It was just released a couple hours ago. Why does every bizarre event like this have someone rapping? Yeah, that's a good question right there. Why does every event like this have a... Well, I don't know. This guy should have stayed for Lean Flat. Did you all see Lean Flat? It says this... Okay, let's see. The only thing most Jews are interested in dominating is their spouse's gluten tolerance. I'm surprised at how much of this is anti-Semitic. Idiots seem to gravitate to the same beliefs. And this coming out at the same time that we have this heightened sense of anti-Semitic attacks, especially in the Northeast and in the East Coast. They've had all these attacks. And then you had Gene Rosen getting another gig as Jerry Myers at that Pittsburgh synagogue thing. And then, of course, New Zealand had this mirror event at this Church of Christ, not specifically anti-Semitic, but this idea of hate and hate speech resulting in violence, all of it coming out at the same time. Trump's getting behind a lot of this nonsense. ADL is out there giving awards to anti-free speech, loudmouth government gestures like Borat. And now this comes out. It says, of course, the nut jobs that believe the earth is flat are also anti-Semitic. Another commenter says, why, at the end of the day, the largest amount of the rich people in the world are Jewish. It's natural for people to do that. Never knew that there were flat earth Nazis, says Will Mack. Well, exactly. It seems to me like it's a non sequitur. What does Nazism have to do with it? You're talking about geography, and they turned it into a whodunit. And I think this was planted early on. One of the first things that Joe Rogan said on the comment was, yeah, I've looked into it. It's a bunch of Nazis. And of course, he was referring to Eric Dubay, aka Jay DeCaspy. Commenter says, as a Jew, I've always wondered how I'm controlling things and why I'm missing out. I had a caller the other day who said he was Jewish, and I asked him because the previous caller said the Jews control all the rappers. And I'm like, well, do you get a cut of the royalties? Like, does Jay-Z or 50 Cent, any of these people, do they pay you every month? And his answer was no. Jose Gonzalez says, you're not Jewish because you don't own a deli, apparently. Yeah, that was a nice stereotype by Nathan Thompson, who has more shower heads than you. Fatherhood POV says, I love how he has a Jew fro and then blames all Jews. Was that directed at Nathan Thompson? Alright, this is actually a rather interesting channel. So what I'm going to do is leave a link here if you want to watch it. Again, I've watched it a couple of times. I've already checked it out, and it's obvious that they hired a bunch of actors to make people who look into flat Earth look like goons. Cam B says Justin Bieber will be going live tomorrow, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, with chat on YouTube. Now, in your entire life, did you ever imagine that you would be shouting out an upcoming Justin Bieber live show? In a room full of people? Never. Speaking of Cam B, I think we have a meme over here. It was a repurposed meme. Oh yes. This will only make sense to those of you who have been down this particular rabbit trail deep enough. It's just got Trump and Obama tweeting one another. My Epstein act was Cam B to hell. I'll pray for Ted Williams, Trump says back. Just this notion, because we've noticed that whenever we call out these suspected death fakers, things often happen to the characters that they play. Happened with the Juice WRLD, happened with Epstein, happened with a few. Just one of those funny coincidences. Facts About Cat says, what's the auto hoax angle on the General Salami bombing? Excuse my mispronunciation, I just don't give a damn about blue pill agitations. It's like I see these people getting butthurt about the American flag burning. It's like, go burn an Iran flag. That's my response, Say, hey, I believe in free speech too. By the way, if you missed it earlier, Globebusters totally caved on the rat. They totally caved. As I said they would. So did Jaron. They just made up excuses and they said it's not a mouse. Well, we all know it's a mouse. In fact, I found it again on the subsequent flight. This is from CRS-20. Same mouse, genetically modified. I think it was Crazy Flat Lady that came up with the name Mad Mouse Hughes, because he's like riding on a rocket. But yeah, this one has a little red rocket and he uses to bounce up on the asteroids. Anyway, that's from the CRS-20 SpaceX rocket launch. Fake as all of them. Post Globe Syndicate says Iran is a distraction from the space rat. Yeah, that's what I said earlier. It's Wag the Rat. Look, the auto hoax perspective is this. You know that it's a world stage. It's not going to suddenly become real tomorrow. It didn't suddenly become real on September 11th. It didn't become real at fill in the blank. Climate change will never be real. The wrath of God will never be real. And whatever you're seeing on TV is just to get votes. And you can see it's right out of the same playbook. He's like, let me see what Obama did on this exact same day during his attempt to get reelected. Oh, okay. Start shit with Iran. Like it's all a game. Then you have that North Korean dictator who was a lot more fun when he was just doing Gangnam Style, and now he's in the whole nuclear warhead provocation game, which is just old. Like nobody's scared of those things. Nothing's been nuked in our lifetime. People are scareder of 5G towers than nukes. Like, prove me wrong. People are scareder of, and I made up that word, scareder, because it's ridiculous the things people fear. And it's so compartmentalized. If you're on the left, you fear climate change. And by the way, happy birthday, Greta. And if you're on the right, you fear chemtrails. Well, no, actually you fear God and maybe chemtrails. People who are kind of in the center kind of fear a mixture. They fear geoengineering. But it's very compartmentalized. All right, so let's continue. I wanted to get through a few more things here before. Oh yeah, Chief Justice John Roberts, and we ought to look into this guy. If he's even half as weird as Brett Kavanaugh, I mean, who knows what's in this guy's, I don't know. We ought to do a study on this one. Anyway, he's talking about how basically we're going to ruin everything that they've worked for. Uh, Generations of brainwashing could be undone by a few YouTube channels. So Chief Justin Roberts or John Roberts says in this warning that in our age when social media can instantly spread rumor and false information on a grand scale, the public needs to understand our government and the protections it provides are even more vital. I mean, basically, it's like, hey, it's a threat to our power if you find out that there's really nothing here. The emperor has no clothes. And the more of you that peek behind the curtain, the less you feel inclined to participate in what we're doing. And it's like, yeah. We know that Jim Bridenstine, NASA's chief, is a liar, a Chicken Little who gets paid to try to scare people into thinking that we need some type of air defense for falling space rocks. There are no falling space rocks. Like, really, it's just a bunch of fear mongers. Like, do we need priests? Do we need pastors on street corners saying the end is near? I don't think so. I think most of us have moved past the need for that. So why do we need these clowns with their manufactured threats? It's all manufactured. There's nothing they're selling that we actually need. By the way, this is something from yesterday. There was a knife man attacked 4 people in Paris. It was another Allah Akbar. Guaranteed it's fake. Just called it. We said, hey, look, they did their school shootings. They did their climate change drama for the summer and for the fall. And as we move into the Christmas season, it's going to be all ISIS and Allah Akbar. It's like, I don't know if they have a calendar or they agree, hey, no terrorist attacks on the days that we have a school shooting. Give us a few weeks. Asia Times, is Trump wagging the dog in the Middle East? And again, I'm saying it's Wag the Rat. It is Year of the Rat. I don't really think they did this to distract from the rat. But isn't it curious? Commenter says, isn't the assassination a hoax? Probably. Do you think they just suddenly started doing it for real? I'm saying no, it's probably fake. It's the world stage. You got to look into Jonah Mendez, chief of disguise for the CIA for 27 years, talked about how she was in a room full of Saddam Husseins. Didn't know which one was which. She didn't know which one was the real one. I mean, these things are foolproof, and I'm just saying it's all stagecraft at a certain level. And it's way too easy, and it's too predictable to be real. Remaking the world in their own image, the rise of flat earth conspiracists in the age of YouTube. This is an interesting piece, and it has a new flat earth model you've never seen. Interactive. Let's see. Mark Sargent believes the earth is flat, and he thinks you should too. Well, Mark Sargent also believes in a dome and in Bigfoot. And is it discrediting to believe in Bigfoot? No. Not necessarily. As long as you can separate what you imagine and what you can fabulate from what you can actually prove. Because to me, this has always been a proposition having to do with science, if anything, but mostly about getting an answer, which requires figuring out where objective reality has been obfuscated. And so I see so many people getting lost in the weeds and falling down these conspiracy rabbit trails, which I think were planted there for this very reason. So a couple of things here really quick. I don't really care too much about this character, although I do find it fascinating that he's a card-carrying member of the Flat Earth Society, which kind of makes it seem like you would know something about it. Card-carrying member, but then found out about it on YouTube years later. Doesn't quite add up. Says, as the leading subject in the Netflix documentary Behind the Curve. Who is the leading character in Behind the Perv? Oh yeah, that's right. We all know. The creator of a YouTube channel with more than 80,000 subscribers. He's the planet's go-to expert for those who wonder about its shape. Here they talk about how 66% of the millennials are certain that it's a ball, meaning 33% deviate. But there's more communist millennials than flat earther millennials. And really, if you're rejecting the whole globe model, you're kind of moving away from the communist statist worldview anyway. It says here it's not just this conspiracy, others have been proliferating. Pearl Harbor wasn't bombed. Awesome. I haven't seen this one get any mainstream attention. Very good. Pearl Harbor wasn't bombed. We were just talking about the event over there at the Naval Shipyard. Well, see, some of these events, like 9/11, become foundational myths, and you can't even touch it. But that is interesting. That one got some traction. Jeffrey Epstein didn't die by suicide. Okay, so that's a mainstream conspiracy. You can say that all day. Jeffrey didn't kill himself. It's been memed to Timbuktu. And it gets memed every day. But the point is that even a real conspiracy that he didn't die by suicide? Some would say maybe he didn't even die. I think it's more likely that he's not even a real person, just a composite character. And if you read anything about him, you'd get the same idea. Goes on to say the Holocaust didn't happen, vaccines cause autism, just to name a few. The campaign against vaccines has been so effective the CDC reported 1,300 cases of measles. The greatest outbreak since 1992. So they're actually blaming, and I knew they would, they're blaming conspiracy theories for causing the disease. Oh, you don't believe in vaccines? You cause diseases. Oh, you don't believe these school shootings are real? You're causing gun violence. It's fascinating. The right uses this against the left. Oh, you don't believe in radical Islam? Well, then you're responsible for the jihad getting stronger and bolder. Like these articles are really interesting because what they kind of show here is they're getting the public used to the idea that we need to do something about these people and their ideas. You know how they used to scare the right about radical Islam? Oh, did you see this verse? This verse says, cut the heads off the infidel. And then you get people looking at every Muslim like they're going to chop your head off. They're doing the same thing here. Isaac Kappy, who faked his death, that was part of this thing where he was talking about if something happens to him, someone needs to go through Hollywood Hills with a machine gun, if you remember that. Well, that's all part of this Pizzagate stuff. So it goes on to say, oh yeah, one more point. Right after the El Paso shooting of the Walmart by that angry white bowl cut, Trump even said that he was in favor of involuntarily confining the mentally ill. And of course, this was the same weekend that it was revealed that the FBI had an internal memo calling conspiracy theorists mentally ill domestic terrorists. Okay, again, this is from desert.com. Misinformation and conspiracy theories are far from new, but social media allows anyone to share them and amplify them. And I remember this one, Professor Landrum at Texas Tech. She did research on the Flat Earth movement, anti-vaccine, and the Pizzagate. Anyone can spread their ideas on the internet. Don't you like that? Like before the internet was very popular, it was like this ideal thing. Oh, anyone can spread their ideas. It's a level over the playing field. Now it's anyone can spread their ideas on the internet. Like they say it with this church lady scowl. All you need is a free account on YouTube and access to a phone. Uh-oh. Of course, they raised that bar a bit because now you need to have 1,000 subscribers on YouTube if you want to stream your mass murder, which means you're not going to have any. Like, this is the idea. Like, well, they don't want people live streaming any kind of mass murders or crimes with what they call gamification, where people start cheering it on, which doesn't happen in real life. I mean, these things are all fake, but they used Brenton Tarrant's shooting of the mosque and live streaming it to justify raising the bar, so you need 1,000 subscribers now to stream from your mobile device. Kind of curious now about that church that was live streaming. They said they were streaming on YouTube. And again, this is all just meant to demonize live streaming. Although it might just mean that it's only going to be very popular people who live stream their mass murders. Like, shout out to PewDiePie. And how did he get dragged into all this? Again, I think what they did was with people like PewDiePie and even Logan Paul, I think they wanted to make a connection in the minds of the parents between what their kids are watching and who they're watching on YouTube and these bad ideas. So Logan Paul's hanging out with Alex Jones, aka Bill Hicks, and suddenly the parents are being told, hey, look, your kids are learning that Sandy Hook was a hoax. In the next paragraph here, it actually says, Alex Jones claims Robert Mueller is a demon and the government controls the weather. Yep. Control of the weather. Insisted so vehemently and frequently that Sandy Hook shooting was a hoax, the victims sued him for defamation. Let's see what else here. Jones is in the company of Joe Rogan's guests, including Elon Musk and Neil deGrasse Tyson. It goes on to reach about how much of a reach that Alex Jones has, as though he represents you. Alex Jones doesn't represent me or anybody I know any more than these clowns pretending to be our representatives in that conference. But this is what the media does. It's a worldview reinforcer. It's not actual reporting. But I'm going through this now because, we've been somewhat vindicated. We predicted it would take a little bit of time for this to be deconstructed, but they definitely had an agenda, and you notice it was deafening. The media silence after the conference was deafening. No one was talking about it. The Daily Beast was there, and usually they're waiting to drop hit pieces. In fact, some guy named Skylar Butts, a Nazi in Southern California, was spray painting research flat earth and then a swastika, and she blamed us and posted an article about it. Like, they usually can't wait to deliver the hit pieces, so I'm surprised they haven't. But this is it. It's starting to roll out. Anyway, here's the map I promised. Now, this is a great piece here, and I quote this all the time. This is Hitchens' razor. They actually cite Hitchens here. Anything that can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. I use that to dismiss the Mandela effect. But in this case, I don't know if you can actually get away with using it. But what it ultimately comes down to is the flat earth question is actually a question of, do we trust this particular authority because we have no other way of knowing? And we don't have a lot of options. You got NASA. Not until later this year when we'll have a representative, someone that actually represents us, make the observation necessary for people to come to a conclusion. And it'll put this question to rest. For round or for flat. So this is the model that was created by, it says Bruce Sherwood. I'll give you guys a link to this. It's part of that article. Here's your mouse if you want to take a look really quick. I've been meaning to keep this on the screen more and more because I don't want to give them any plausible deniability. One thing you cannot deny about this, you cannot deny that that is a mouse. Now, is it a living mouse? Is it a breathing mouse? Is it actually, footage they captured and put in there? Is it a live recording of a mouse? I don't know. The proportions are somewhat cartoonish. The ears are pronounced like Mickey Mouse, as Bob the computer hacker said. It's definitely a mouse. It's not ice. It's not just white stuff debris, as Jaron said. It's not pareidolia, as Bilu said. No, that is a freaking mouse. There's no other way to describe it. Now, you can argue about what it's made of. I would suspect it's made of two things. One, it's made of CGI, and then two, it's made of the same effect or filter or components that they use for the debris that they use to simulate frozen oxygen bouncing off this thing throughout the flight. That way they would have plausible deniability. And if it weren't for the structural integrity of the head and the oscillating way that it moves, the mousy way that it moves and the way that it's lit consistently the way that it should be by the light, including a shadow shaped like a mouse, yeah, I would say maybe it's not, but no, that's a mouse. Mousegate is real. Anyone else still calling it? We have space foil was one thing. Going through comments, let's see if we have anything here. Dental Misorder says, I love Alex Jones even though he's a fear-mongering shill. Sure. I have nothing against Bill Hicks, Alex Jones, whatever. I just have to point out, though, that he's almost single-handedly responsible for dismantling much of what we have done in the last few years as a loose-knit network of the people's media, is what you could call it. There used to be this thing, it was the people's media. It was growing, networks of people organically just examining things, asking questions, doing their own research outside the mediation of the big network, corporate controlled media. And Alex Jones helped destroy that. So I'm glad that you enjoy him. I'm sure. I mean, maybe you don't look at it that way, but for one thing, he backtracked on Sandy Hook 100%. And not only did he backtrack, he was a crisis actor in favor of the Vegas event. He's Vegas strong. How can you be Vegas strong? You know who else is Vegas strong? High Impact Flicks. Anybody pushing false flag theories are actually hiding psychological operations. They're hiding the fakery. And, it's worth asking why. Who are they doing it for? Social media today, again, a lot of this fear-mongering about the free flow of information because of people like Alex Jones and people who are anti-Semitic. And get this, I mean, look, I know these things are all fake. You can do research and you can find that more than 66% of reported hate crimes are determined to be hoaxes. And so we're supposed to believe that there's a whole bunch of these hate crimes happening on the East Coast. And it really kicked off, I think, with that Black Hebrew Israelite couple. But the point is, they're driven by conspiracies that point the blame on the Jews. And then you have Nathan Thompson. He's like, oh, I'm the most popular flat earther. I've got 120,000 people following me on Facebook. Which, no, he doesn't. Those numbers are fake. I don't really think that if he were to assemble a MailChimp list that he would have 10% of that. I don't think so. Not at this stage. Not that he's a bad person, but everyone saw the video on Troll versus Trolls where he was attacking that woman with the kid. So he seems like another controlled opposition agent to me. And when I first spoke to him, the first thing he said was, what do you think about the Jews? And I'm like, oh man. Is he really stuck on that? But my point is, he's out there saying, well, we can't call them Jews because we'll get kicked off the YouTube, so we're going to call them grabblers. And then he rubs his hands together. And I'm like, well, he got that from Owen Benjamin, who basically pushes the line on certain things, but when looked at through the lens of the MSM, it pretty much is guilt by association. There's a reason why the Democrats would hire people to dress up like Klansmen and photobomb the Republicans. Alright, so let's continue. Yeah, it looked very scripted, is all I'm saying. And I think you all agree here. What if fake news isn't the real problem on social media? And what it's saying here is, well, maybe fake news isn't the problem. Maybe the problem is that it's the inability of people to think for themselves. People don't do their own fact checking. But none of the discussion about fake news ever brings up the idea of faked news. Like, I've been trying to think of how do we make a distinction, because I kind of co-opted the term fake news. But you can look at things, for example, when AOC was screaming for the children, the immigrants, that she said were being snatched from the arms of the parents. and she was screaming the humanity. Oh, the humanity. Turns out she was screaming into an empty parking lot. Well, I would call that faked news. I would call fake shootings faked news. Because the term fake has been used to mean bias, and it doesn't quite say it all. It doesn't even get close. But none of the criticisms about the fake news, or what they call dangerous misinformation, ever accounts for stuff that's completely fabricated. I mean, we're the only ones who actually incorporate that into every one second here, I got a comment. I think Grabbler is a sketch from The Onion. Let me take a look. I mean, I've only seen it with that horrible mask, which, you know what, I'm not really offended by it, personally. Okay, here we go. Let's take a look. Now this is interesting because what's his name? Nathan Thompson was talking about. No, not him. One of the other guys was saying, "Well, you know the solution." So this is a book called The Solution: Kill All the Grabblers. What is this? Now, what exactly is a grabbler? Like, I haven't been able to get a clear definition. Somebody said anybody can be a grabbler. It's like a gamma. What is a grabbler? Are there any bears in here who can tell me what it is? It's a fictional character. Kind of looks familiar. Like if Dan the Waterman grew a beard. I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to change the subject. Let's get back on track. Yeah, they'll never talk about the real fake news. World War III about to be kicked off. If it does get kicked off, you know, who's on whose side? Well, clearly, World War III is going to involve, if you ask me, it's a space war. And the space war, of course, is going to be green or free. Post Globe Syndicate says, watch the video. Yeah, give me a link. I haven't seen it yet. I'm not all that interested. I just think it's fascinating though that they're so willing to use dog whistles. Just say what you mean. It's a layman's term for Malthusian technocrats. Interesting. Greta would be a grabbler then. Ones who want to, basically engineer a utopia. And when I say oligarchs, that's kind of what I mean too. I mean the technocrats. Got your Bears' Talmudic reasoning. See, there you go. I'm pretty sure. Let's see. Okay, let's see what the Urban Dictionary has to say. Urban Dictionary is a source for a lot of these things. Although I don't trust their definition of mandoozled. I think they somehow managed to mandoozle that. It has been said that they're greasy, hook-nosed race of creatures with oily black hair, greedy little monsters that want to grabble up the money, the inventors of interest rates, known only to hire their own kind, taking all the jobs. Okay, so who does that refer to? Short-Faced Bear says yes, Greta is a baby grabbler. How dare you, grabbler? I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with that term. And when I saw Nathan Thompson using it, it kind of gave me I don't know, a bad vibe. I'm like, I mean, he's still reading the protocols of the learned elders of Zion. Like, how did he become, the face of the stuff? I don't know. That's what I mean. These people seem like actors. Urban Dictionary is great. Well, Urban Dictionary is... it's the voice of the people, You can't argue with that. Okay, let's see. Oh, I did watch a Globe Light tour happening, and it seems like a lot of people don't understand that you need permits for public demonstrations in some places, and in other places you have to read the signs. And so some flat earthers were being kicked out of a mall today. I just played 30 seconds.
Why would they tell me that you were filming that? I was not filming that. I don't know why they got that impression. If there's anything posted that has my daughters on there, I need your information right now.
The guy says if there's anything posted in there with my daughter, you need to get my permission right now. So she's being called out for having recorded this guy's daughter. And funnily enough, and we'll watch some more nose picking in a second, funnily enough, Authentic Intent was in the chat saying, I'll look up the law for you there in South Carolina, and you can find out if it's one-party consent, then you can consent and you can record that man's daughter. No joke, a sex offender is giving Karen B advice on how to record some guy's daughter in a mall against his wishes.
Right now, because I will track you down.
He just said, I will track you down. I mean, this guy is pissed.
Your information. You have a business card with your name.
He's asking Karen, I want a business card, I want your name. I mean, this guy is really mad about this. Apparently, they're recording his daughter without permission. And again, she's a mother. I mean, doesn't she know? Did anybody else watch this today? Is Bigfoot a grabbler? Now, is she a grabbler? Or is she grabbling her nose? Is that grabbling? I'm just saying here, it was it was unreal to me because she was the one who defended the sex offender when I asked if he was one. I was like, well, isn't this kind of odd? And now here she is taking advice from him in the chat on how to record some guy's teenage daughter without his permission.
Your name.
Okay, so let's see. Anyway, let me give you a link here. If you haven't subscribed, I do have a private blog. I keep it private. Flat Earth Kid says, pick me a winner. Here's a link if you want to join. As of 2020, it's behind a $1 a month paywall because it makes the trolls so mad. And it really does make them mad. But I do provide my best content. This is Subscribestar. You can get there at timosman.space. I have my breakdown of the CGI mouse, aka Mousegate. I have direct quotes from Bob the computer hacker, Jaren, and Bilu. He called it pareidolia effect with aluminum. So it's like, what is it? Is it aluminum pareidolia? Is it ice? Or is it a video compression artifact? And then Bilu goes on to say, well, you know what? I'm also seeing a cat with its mouth open. Like they totally minimized it. They totally minimized it. Okay, well, look, I have to take off. I want to say thanks, everyone, for joining. And, of course, I'll be more active in the next couple of days. I had to take a little bit of time off to wrap up some projects. This is a new track by Allergic to Bullshit. This is Boundless, and I'll see you all later. Wait just one moment here. Wait just one moment here. I apparently just got accepted into the Biblical Flat Earth Society, which I've been wanting to be in there since it's like May. So let me go ahead and access my Facebook page and go in the chat. Okay, excellent. Flat Earth Society. Short-Faced Bear says, great stream as always. I'm full of gravy. No logos. Oh, we've got plenty of logos. In fact, if you go to infiniteplanesociety.com, we got one for Flat Earth Report, which I basically borrowed from Wiki News. and that's that one on the bottom right. And then I have a logo for, well, the penguin's not really a logo, it's more of a mascot. But no, we've got logos. We got a lot of artwork for pretty much every project. We have plenty of slogans and hashtags. Speak Penguin or Die is another big one. Okay, so really quick here, I'm trying to get into the Biblical Flat Earth Society's page. Okay, yeah, I am in. Is that the right one, though? We shall see. Okay, it looks like we're in. Is this the one that was run by Philip Stallings and people are still using it? I would feel dirty if I was in this group. Maybe they don't know. So here's what I'm going to do because I don't have a whole lot of time. Let me go ahead and just post for their edification. Philip Stallings. Philip Stallings was the guy that made that very popular documentary with a couple of very popular flat earthers. And in the documentary, they made the case that the earth was a flat earth as described in the Bible. And then earlier this year, here we go. Durham man faces 50 charges for, yes, the worst thing ever. So what I'm going to do is post a few links just so they know, hey look, the founder of your little group here is a child porn kingpin, and he's BFFs with some people at the conference. I mean, look, this is a real sordid story if you really get down to it. You know, so the crazy stuff like Nathan Thompson just doesn't even surprise me anymore. Your post has been submitted and is pending approval by admin or moderator. I don't even like Facebook. I would leave Facebook, but I have a really good URL. It's facebook.com/crisisactors. All right, I'll see you all later.